Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this case study presented by SpencerMetrics in partnership with Xeikon. We are going to talk about maximizing an inkjet press ROI and how a data-driven approach was adopted in this case to achieve the results that were necessary. We will talk a little bit about the customer profile and the background, some of the challenges and considerations that have to be taken into account with inkjet presses, the return on investment, why should we care and why should you care about it, the goal that the customer was looking to achieve, the specific actions that were taken in order to achieve those results, and finally, the quantified metrics and monetization of these results and the resulting savings. I'll hand over to Chris Yanko from Xeikon to introduce the customer background. Chris?
Thank you, Vishal. This particular case study is highlighting a multi-generational label printer converter based in the southern US. In addition to labels, they also do other printing, but for the focus of this case study, we're going to limit our discussion to labels. This particular customer produces over 3,000 SKUs, all varying sizes, but all durable labels for the home appliance industry. They're using a Xeikon PX3000 or Panther inkjet, UV inkjet technology. They wanted to achieve faster speeds and higher quality than they were able to achieve with their previous press. Inkjet, as we all know, is best for the durable label market. This particular customer started with a Jetreon inkjet press. They wanted to maintain the benefits of inkjet for their durable label work. They came to the Xeikon Panther series because they were looking for a higher resolution. They also wanted a faster print speed, enabling them to turn around the product quicker to their customers. And they were also attracted to the Panther Cure ink curing technology, which we offer, which is quite specific. It's a combination of LED and mercury curing. So those attributes all together added up to a pretty compelling solution for them. The goal was to achieve higher productivity and higher quality, and also to provide for maximum ROI.
Thank you, Chris. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges or the considerations that someone might have when you have inkjet processes involved. The foremost category over here would be print quality. You opt for it because you get higher speeds and you want to maintain the print quality that your customers are expecting. Print quality relies heavily on good jetting from the print heads. A poor maintenance would directly impact your print quality. It would increase downtime, create unnecessary waste in both ink and media. So it becomes necessary to pay attention to color calibration, printhead cleaning procedures, and maintenance, because it would directly impact the amount of ink that is wasted as well as the media waste. And there has to be some kind of consideration or controls around being able to control these. The other issue is about media, how the media, various paper types that you run through the machine interact with the ink, whether it is the roll changes, the paper profiles, the dryer settings, etc. And last but not the least, we also need to take into account the workflow, because we have pre and post production support that is required so that the machine itself can run optimally. There has to be a way to identify and minimize any kind of inefficiencies here. And one of the things that we look at is the frequency and duration of stoppages. How many times is the machine stopping, and what is the duration? And over time, being able to track these and be able to reduce any of these. Let's take a look at return on investment. Why should you care, and why did this particular customer care about it? There's a need to measure and to be data driven. That's the only way someone can actually monetize or figure out their return on investment. No matter what we do, there will be inefficiencies, but the inefficiencies could be anywhere. It could be in the presses, in the people, or in the process itself. How do we identify them? There are three components to the ROI. One is the machine itself, but the machine is not running by itself. We have people or the operators that are using that machine, and there's a workflow within which the machine and the people need to operate. So the ROI that someone gets out of a particular investment is interdependent on all these three categories. There's a need to understand the training and workflow issues, and how can we make them more efficient so that we get better ROI, which would translate into more profits. We have to have a strategy, develop a strategy, and follow a process. And the process could be as simple as measuring things, analyzing information, and actually being able to use that information to get the resulting changes that we are looking for. Historically, we also find that one way to measure things would be to count clicks, but there are a lot of other machine and labor downtime issues that can be looked at, and that is where the opportunity lies. The machine is running, which is good, but the only way to impact this is by being able to identify and reduce any one of these downtime categories so that we can weed out the non-value add time and convert that into value added time that we can then charge for. This would then result in cost savings and the bottom line profit. So the goal over here was to be able to increase the ROI by addressing the excessive time and waste in various downtime categories. If we look at one of the measures of measuring productivity increase, we can look at something called the effective production rate. So regardless of the speed of the machine, during an 8-hour shift, if one could increase that rate of production to 2 pages by 2 pages a minute, which adds about 120 pages per hour, then we have about 2,000 hours that we can utilize. The value of that 2 page per minute improvement would be worth over $24,000 for each press that we are operating. In this particular case, the SpencerMetrics Connect system was utilized in conjunction with Xeikon performance services. So what the Connect system does is that it automates data collection from the machine so that we have very accurate data. There is shop floor data, which is integrated with that machine data so that we can provide more context to the downtime. Why did the downtime happen? The press might itself not know about it, but there is a way to collect this shop floor information and integrate it so that we have a full picture of what's going on. There was real-time monitoring available using the production dashboard, which provided immediate feedback to the operators as well as to the management to understand what was going on, where time was being wasted, so that they could proactively address any issues. Analytics were then used in collaboration with Xeikon to identify what were the specific areas that needed to be addressed so that the user or the customer could get more return on investment out of their press by reducing any kind of downtime. Let's take a look at some of the actions and the results that were generated with the Xeikon performance service. So I'll let Chris talk a little bit about the specifics of what were the things that were done. Chris, back
Thank
to
you, Vishal. Thank you, Vishal. Some of the categories that that we saw a little bit earlier, briefly in the pie chart, are really buckets in which we can accumulate data and from that draw conclusions and actions. So one of the main things that we did see in this particular instance was in several areas, but first let's talk about color matching. The point of the our particular action here was to identify any excessive time and materials that could be wasted in translating color from pre-press or customer requirements to a color match on press. What we did find, based upon the times that we saw, we knew that they were unusual. We were spending a lot of time, let's say, in what I call a closed loop cycle, and that's would be where we would send files to the press, we would look at the result, and then based upon the result, go back to pre-press and make changes. So what we were able to discover was that one of the reasons this was taking so long is that spot colors defined in the file were pre-converted to CMYK in pre-press. And when that came down to the press, for one reason or another, it wasn't quite what it needed to be to meet the customer specifications. So we developed an action based upon that to establish a new procedure. So within this particular DFE, we were able to pull out the spot colors and apply the best possible definition to them. And in that case, we were able to get a more accurate color match that the customer was really very happy with. Another area that that we looked at was something that it really has a big impact regardless of the process, but in the inkjet particularly, test files, various test files are sent to the press in order to get it ready for a production run. And those press files, test files, have certain types, and they could be for registration or drop size or any number of things. But what we were able to do is look at those and the frequency and say that, okay, this particular file was a normal part of printing. But if we see things that are not normal parts of printing that would indicate an artifact of some kind, then we're able to take an action based upon that and see that maybe the operator's struggling with something mechanical, for example. And then we can, of course, step in and come up with a plan to address that. So by looking at test files as a category and segmenting them into their various purposes, we were also able to train the operators. So at the end of the day, the combination of color and the test file evaluation brought us from a gain of basically we were spending 27 hours in the beginning in February down to 11.76 in June, which is about a 50% improvement. And all of that, of course, adds up to profit. Now, there's another category too that's fairly common, and there are a lot of reasons for delays, for example. And with this system, we were able to more or less segment those buckets so that we know what the delay was and why. In this particular case, what we were able to see was that a lot of the time that was attributed as offline finishing actually turned out to be it turned out to be that the operator was basically running both machines. So when the press was not printing, maybe that particular operator was finishing. So between those two times, we were able to identify an opportunity for maximizing the investment in the press. For example, maybe it's time based upon the production that we see for the company to add another operator to do the finishing. Okay, similarly in the delays category, we can see a marked improvement here from, if you look at March, it's 72.74 hours. In June, we're down to 50% of that, basically half that. So, and all of this comes from two areas. One, it comes from accumulating all of the data that the system enables us to do, but also from an unexpected place. The operator themselves organically is able to learn from the system based upon what they're seeing and improve their performance. So it's sort of a two-pronged sword to get there. But the net is that we are increasing productivity and therefore profits.
Thanks, Chris. There are various different KPIs or indicators that can be used to measure and manage your improvement efforts. One of them is overall equipment effectiveness. That is something that the Connect system has built in automatically, where it can be used to basically see if the improvements that you're making are going in the right direction or not. So this was also something that was tracked over time as a KPI. And we saw that it was hovering around mid-20s over the few months where the actions were being identified. And once they were implemented, we can see the jump to almost 40% in the OEE. So it shows that there was an improvement in the KPI. Another indicator would be the productivity itself, which is the amount of time the machine is printing out of a shift. So if we look at that, again, it was hovering around 26, 27% for most months, but once the changes were implemented, we can see it jump over 40%. So that's producing more output in the same amount of time. So having the press to run more time and reducing the downtime issues that happen. One other factor that we could look at is the production rate. So regardless, again, of your speed of your machine, there's a certain speed at which your operation can produce output over an 8-hour shift. That, when tracked, was around 40. And in June, when we tracked it on a month-to-month basis, we saw a great improvement going almost up to 60 pages per minute. So in summary, when we look at various downtime issues that were tracked and the productivity metrics, we can see a reduction in downtime categories. All the categories, whether it is quality control or delays, etc., show a downward trend. And all the productivity and KPI measures show an improvement going forward. We can look at financial impact in many different ways. Whether you look at downtime reduction, which was almost 36 hours, productivity increase, which was over 6% in just a matter of 5 months with a dedicated and targeted approach. And if you look at effective production rate, that in this case jumped over 10 pages per minute. And we have calculated that earlier at 2 pages per minute. And in this case, they exceeded the expectations and some and more by getting almost over 120,000 per year potential increase in what they were able to produce, they would be able to produce with the same resources that they have invested in. So all in all, looks like it was a win-win. Xeikon was able to make sure that they have a happy customer and was able to engage with them and able to provide them services that will help them to use the machine better, increase their utilization. And from the customer standpoint, it was something that was quite impactful, both whether it is productivity or financial gains that they are able to see out of the system. Thank you very much for attending. And if you have any more questions, feel free to visit us at our website or contact us. Thank you.